Commander Thalric stood on the bridge of the Eternal Watcher, staring at the blue planet that filled the view screen. His silver skin rippled with anticipation. After 847 cycles, they had finally returned to the primitive world called Earth. "Scan results, Velmoth?" Thalric asked his science officer. Velmoth's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Commander, I'm detecting nothing." "Nothing? Explain." "No electromagnetic signals. No heat signatures from cities. No orbital structures. The planet appears completely uninhabited." Velmoth's tentacles trembled slightly. "But that's impossible. Our records show primitive mammals were developing tool use when we last surveyed this world." Thalric leaned forward in his command chair. The Velkari Empire had catalogued Earth 800 years ago. Back then, the humans were barely capable of building simple structures. They used fire for warmth and hunted with basic weapons. The survey team had marked Earth as a world to check again in a few thousand cycles, expecting to find an emerging civilization. "Perhaps they destroyed themselves," suggested Kethan from the sensor station. "Primitive species often do. Nuclear war, biological weapons, climate collapse." "Perhaps," Thalric said, but something felt wrong. "Take us into orbit." Full planetary scan. The Eternal Watcher descended through Earth's atmosphere. The crew watched in silence as their sensors painted a picture of the world below. Oceans still sparkled blue and green. Forests covered vast areas. Mountains stood tall and proud. But where cities should have been, there was only wilderness. "I'm detecting structures," Velmoth reported, "but they're all abandoned. Heavily overgrown with plant life. Some are partially collapsed." Thalric made his decision. "Prepare a landing team. We're going down to investigate." They landed in what their old records called Sol. The ancient survey had marked it as a large settlement cluster where millions of humans lived. Now, as the landing craft touched down, they saw only ruins. Massive towers of concrete and steel pierced through thick jungle canopy. Vines crawled up the sides of buildings like green serpents. Trees grew from windows and balconies. Streets had cracked and broken with grass and flowers pushing through the pavement. It looked like nature had reclaimed everything humanity had built. Thalric led his team through the ruins. Their translator devices picked up faded signs in human languages. They saw vehicles rusted beyond recognition, their wheels flat and frames twisted. Shop windows were shattered. Inside goods had rotted away centuries ago. "How long has this place been empty?" asked Shenkar, the team's archaeologist. "Preliminary analysis suggests at least 600 cycles," Velmoth replied, scanning the decay around them. "Possibly more." They moved deeper into the dead city. Birds flew between buildings. Small mammals scattered at their approach. Earth was alive with nature, but humans were nowhere to be found. Shenkar stopped at what looked like an old university. The building was more intact than others, built with stronger materials. "Commander, I'm detecting a power source inside." "After 600 years?" Thalric was skeptical. "It's very faint. Backup systems, perhaps. Should we investigate?" They entered carefully. The interior was dark and musty. Their lights cut through the gloom, revealing hallways lined with doors. Signs pointed to classrooms, laboratories, libraries. The team found one room that still had power. A single emergency light flickered weakly above a desk. On the desk sat a device. It was surprisingly intact, protected by a sealed container. Velmoth carefully extracted it. "It's a data storage unit. Holographic projector, I think. Can you activate it?" Velmoth connected his portable power unit to the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hum, a blue light appeared above the desk. The light formed into symbols, then words, then a moving image. A human appeared in the hologram. He was young, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore simple clothing and sat in the very room where they now stood. Behind him, through a window, they could see the city of Sol as it once was, alive with lights and movement. "My name is Daehyun," the human said. His voice was calm but carried an edge of urgency. "I am a researcher at Seoul National University. I'm recording this message on March 15th, 2187. If anyone finds this, you need to know what happened here." The Velkari team moved closer, fascinated. 3 years ago, we detected them," Daehyun continued. "We call them the Collectors. They're a spacefaring species that harvests primitive worlds before those worlds can develop. They've done it to dozens of civilizations. We found evidence of their activities in ancient ruins on Mars and Europa." Thalric felt a chill run through his body. He knew of the Collectors. Every spacefaring race did. They were bogeymen, monsters from old stories. Some said they were real. Others claimed they were myths. Earth was on their list, Daehyun said. We had maybe 50 years before they arrived. We weren't strong enough to fight them. Our weapons were too primitive. Our ships too slow. If we stayed, we would be harvested like all the others. The hologram flickered. When it stabilized, Daehyun looked even more exhausted. So we made a choice. The governments of Earth enacted the Diaspora Protocol. We built generation ships, colony vessels, anything that could travel between stars. We emptied our world. Every human, or as many as we could save, left Earth. We scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Velmoth gasped. They abandoned their entire world? Some volunteered to stay behind, Daehyun continued as if answering the question. To maintain essential systems. To erase our databases. To leave false trails. I'm one of them. By the time you see this, I'll be long dead. But my people will be alive somewhere out there among the stars. The human in the hologram looked directly at the camera, as if he could see through time to the Velkari watching him. We must leave before the collectors arrive, but we will remember Earth. We will remember our home. And someday, when we're strong enough, we will return. The hologram flickered one last time and died. The landing team stood in silence. Around them, the dead city seemed somehow different now. Not a grave, but a monument. Not an ending, but a beginning. Commander, Kethin's voice crackled over the communicator. We've found similar archives in other cities. New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai. All with the same date. All with the same message. Thalrix looked around the room one more time. These humans had chosen survival over their homeworld. They had scattered themselves across the galaxy to avoid extinction. It was brilliant and desperate in equal measure. Log everything, he ordered. The Velkari Empire needs to know what happened here. Humanity didn't die out. They left. As they prepared to leave, Shenkar found one more thing. Carved into the wall near the door, someone had written words in the human language Korean. Their translators worked slowly to decode it. What does it say? Thalrix asked. Shenkar read the translation aloud. We did not run. We dispersed. And we will remember. The words echoed in the empty room. Outside, Earth waited in silence. But it was not the silence of death. It was the silence of something waiting to be reclaimed. 3 weeks had passed since the landing team first entered Seoul. Now the ruins crawled with Velkari researchers. They had established a base camp in what used to be a government building. The structure was solid enough to support their equipment and provided shelter from the rain. Commander Thalrix watched as teams moved through the city, cataloging everything they found. Each day brought new discoveries. Each discovery raised new questions. Shenkar had become obsessed with the human timeline. She spent her days in underground archives, scanning through whatever data she could recover. Most of it was corrupted by time and moisture, but enough remained to paint a picture. Commander, you need to see this, she called one morning. Thalrix made his way to her workstation. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing human documents, images, and video recordings. I've been piecing together their technological development, Shenkar explained. Her excitement made her tentacles wave rapidly. When we first surveyed Earth 847 cycles ago, humans had just developed radio technology. They were beginning to explore space with primitive rockets. Yes, I read the original survey, but look at this. She pulled up a timeline. Within 200 cycles, they had achieved faster-than-light travel. Within 400 cycles, they had antimatter reactors. By the time they left Earth, their technology was approaching our own level. Thalrix stared at the data. That's impossible. Technological development doesn't happen that fast. Apparently it does when you're running for your life, Shenkar said quietly. The collectors motivated them. Fear pushed them forward faster than natural curiosity ever could. Another researcher, Kethin, joined them. He carried a sealed container. I found something in what they called Cape Canaveral. It was their space launch facility. He opened the container carefully. Inside was a data chip, preserved in some kind of protective gel. Velmoth connected it to their systems. More holograms appeared. These showed massive ships under construction. Generation vessels the size of small cities. Colony ships designed to carry thousands of people. Transport craft numbered in the tens of thousands. They called it the Diaspora Protocol, Kethin explained. A coordinated plan to evacuate the entire planet. Every nation worked together. They built ships in orbit on the moon, on Mars, anywhere they could. The footage showed humans saying goodbye to Earth, families boarding ships, children looking back at the blue planet through windows. The images were silent, but the emotion was clear. How many escaped? Thalrix asked. Records are incomplete, but estimates suggest between 8 and 9 billion humans left Earth. They scattered in every direction. No central destination, just away. Thalrix felt a strange respect for these humans. Faced with extinction, they had done the unthinkable. They abandoned their home world to preserve their species. Over the following days, teams made more discoveries. In underground bunkers beneath military bases, they found weapons that made the Velkari nervous. Directed energy rifles, plasma cannons, antimatter charges sealed in magnetic containers. But the strangest find came from a facility in what used to be called Russia. The team found a vault deep underground. It took them 3 days to open it safely. Inside, they discovered rows of crystalline spheres, each the size of a human head. The spheres glowed faintly with internal light. Warning labels covered the walls in 47 different languages. The Velkari could read several of them. All said the same thing. Danger, do not open, military ordnance. What are they? Thalrix asked Velmoth. I don't know. Our scanners can't penetrate the crystal. Whatever's inside is shielded by technology I've never seen before. They carefully transported one sphere back to their base camp for study. The rest remained sealed in the vault. That evening, Shenkar found something that changed everything. She was going through personal logs recovered from various locations. Most were mundane. People recording their daily lives, their thoughts, their fears. Then she found the logs of someone named HFY. The first entry was dated 2172, 15 years before the evacuation. HFY had been a navigator for one of Earth's first deep space exploration vessels. Her logs described encounters with alien ruins, abandoned worlds, and eventually, evidence of the collectors. We found another dead world today, one entry read. The fourth this year. Same pattern as the others. A civilization just reaching for the stars, then nothing. Buildings intact but empty. Technology abandoned, no bodies, no signs of war or disease. They were just taken. Later entries grew more urgent. We know they're coming for us. The pattern is clear. They target worlds when the species reaches a certain level of development. Not too primitive, not too advanced. Just at the point where harvesting is most efficient. Earth fits the profile perfectly. Then came the entry that made Shenkar call for the commander. The diaspora protocol has been approved. HFY wrote. We're going to scatter. The military strategists believe it's our only chance. They can't harvest what they can't find. If we spread across enough star systems, across enough worlds, we become impossible to eliminate completely.
Even if they find some of us, others will survive. But it was the final entry that sent chills through Thalrix. We're not just running.
We're preparing. Every colony ship carries weapons. Every settlement will be fortified. Every child will be taught to survive in space. We will not stay weak. We will not remain prey. And someday, when we're strong enough, we will return to Earth. We will reclaim our home. And if the collectors or anyone else tries to stop us, they will learn what humanity becomes when pushed to the edge. Thalrix read the entry 3 times. These humans, he said slowly. They didn't flee in panic. This was strategic. Yes, Commander. Shenkar pulled up more data. Every ship went in a different direction. They carried different technologies, different knowledge, different cultures. If one colony failed, others would succeed. If one was found, others remained hidden. Distributed survival, Velmoth murmured. Brilliant and terrifying. That night, Thalrix couldn't sleep. He walked through the ruins of Sol, his guards following at a respectful distance. The city was peaceful under the stars. Nature had softened the harsh lines of human construction. It was almost beautiful. He stopped at a memorial they had found earlier. It was a simple stone wall with names carved into it. Thousands of names. Humans who had stayed behind to ensure others could escape. Volunteers who knew they would die but chose to sacrifice themselves anyway. At the top of the memorial, words were carved in both Korean and English. The translator rendered them. We give our lives so our children can live among the stars. Remember us. Return for us. Reclaim what was ours. Below that, another message, this one signed by someone named Tae Yang. We did not run. We dispersed, and we will remember. Thalrix stood there for a long time, thinking about what they had discovered. These humans had been primitive when the Velkari first found them. But in just 800 years they had transformed themselves. Fear and necessity had driven them to heights of achievement that normally took thousands of years. Where were they now? What had they become? 8 billion humans scattered across the galaxy, each group developing independently, each adapting to different worlds, each building their own technology. "Commander," Kethen's voice came through his communicator, "you should return to base camp. We've decoded more of the data from Cape Canaveral. You'll want to see this." As Thalrix walked back, he noticed something he hadn't before. Small devices attached to buildings. Cameras, perhaps, or sensors, still functioning after 600 years, powered by systems he didn't understand. A thought occurred to him, cold and unwelcome. What if the humans had left these devices on purpose? What if they were still watching their abandoned homeworld? What if they knew the Velkari were here? He pushed the thought away. Impossible. It had been 600 years. Even if humans had survived out there, they couldn't still care about one dead world. But as he entered the base camp, he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth wasn't as abandoned as it seemed. Something was watching, something was waiting, and someday something would return. Commander Thalrix stood before the crystalline sphere. It sat on an examination table in the center of their laboratory, glowing softly with that strange internal light. 2 months had passed since they first found it. 2 months of scanning, testing, and analysis. They still didn't understand what it was. "We should open it," Thalrix announced. Velmoth's tentacles curled in concern. "Commander, the warnings are 600 years old," Thalrix interrupted. "Written by a dead civilization that was barely capable of space travel. We are the Velkari Empire. We've conquered a dozen star systems. We're not going to be frightened by ancient human warnings." The science officer hesitated, then nodded. "As you command." They worked carefully, using cutting lasers to penetrate the crystal. It took hours. The material was incredibly dense and seemed to resist their tools, but eventually they broke through. Inside was not a weapon but a data core, quantum storage, far more advanced than anything the Velkari used. Velmoth extracted it with trembling hands and connected it to their systems. A hologram sprang to life. This time it showed a human woman in a military uniform. She stood on what appeared to be a ship's bridge. Behind her, crew members worked at stations. The image quality was perfect, as if she were standing right there in the room. "My name is Bora," she said. Her voice was firm and commanding. "Fleet Admiral, Earth Exodus Command. If you're watching this, you've either found one of our data spheres or somehow accessed our secured networks. Either way, you're on Earth and you shouldn't be." She stepped closer to the camera. Her dark eyes seemed to look directly at Thalrix. "To whoever finds this, leave this world and do not seek us. We left Earth as both bait and monument. It serves a purpose in our long-term strategy. More importantly, if you're scavenging our homeworld, you're already being watched. We left systems in place. We left protocols running. We know when someone comes here. We know when someone takes what isn't theirs." The Admiral's expression hardened. "We are not the primitives you think we are. We are not extinct. We are dispersed, and we are patient. Leave now while you still can." The hologram faded. Silence filled the laboratory. Then Thalrix laughed. The sound was harsh and bitter. "Watched? By whom? Scattered refugees who fled 800 years ago." He turned to his crew. "This is a bluff. Psychological warfare left by a desperate species. They wanted to scare away scavengers. Nothing more." "But Commander," Shenkar said quietly, "what if she's telling the truth? Then where are they? We've been here for 2 months. We've explored every major city. We've dug through their bunkers. We've accessed their archives. There's no sign of any monitoring system. No hidden ships. No active defenses. Earth is dead and empty." Thalrix made his decision. "Send word to the Empire. Earth contains valuable resources. Rare metals in their cities. Advanced technology we can study. Request approval to begin mining operations." The approval came within a week. The Velkari Empire saw opportunity. A dead world, unclaimed by any current civilization, full of materials that could be harvested. They sent mining vessels, cargo ships, processing facilities. Soon the Velkari operation expanded across the planet. They stripped metal from buildings in Seoul and New York. They dug up old data centers in Tokyo and London. They dismantled human satellites that still drifted in orbit. Everything was valuable. Everything could be used. Thalrix watched with satisfaction as his expedition became a successful resource extraction operation. The Empire was pleased. His career would benefit greatly from this discovery. Then the prosperity disappeared. The mining vessel had been transporting rare metals from Earth to the orbital processing station. A routine flight done dozens of times before. The ship checked in at the scheduled time, confirmed its cargo, and began the journey. It never arrived. Any distress calls? Thalrix demanded. None, Commander. Keithan scanned his displays frantically. No emergency beacons, no debris. The ship simply vanished between one sensor sweep and the next. That's impossible. Ships don't just vanish. Perhaps it was a malfunction, Velmoth suggested. A reactor failure that destroyed the ship instantly? Then where's the debris? Even a catastrophic explosion would leave fragments. Thalrix felt uneasy for the first time since arriving at Earth. Expand sensor range. Search the entire system. They searched for 3 days. Found nothing. The Prosperity and its crew of 40 Velkari were simply gone. Then a second ship disappeared. Then a third. Commander, we have a problem. Kethin's voice was tight with fear. I'm detecting spatial distortions at the edge of the system. Something's out there. Multiple somethings. Show me. The main display lit up with sensor data. At first, Thalrix saw nothing unusual. Then Keithan enhanced the image, filtering out background radiation and stellar interference. Ships, dozens of them. Small craft barely visible, using some kind of stealth technology that bent light and sensor waves around them. They were positioned around Earth like a net, watching everything the Velkari did. How long have they been there? Thalrix whispered. Unknown. Could be days. Could be since we arrived. Kethin zoomed in on one of the signatures. The technology is extremely advanced, far beyond our current capabilities. Can we identify the ships? Working on it. Velmoth joined them at the sensor station. Wait, I'm getting something. The hull composition, the energy signature. Commander, I think these are human ships. Thalrix felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. Humans fled 600 years ago in primitive generation ships. They couldn't have developed this kind of technology. Unless, Shenkar said softly from across the room, they had 600 years to do exactly that. The lights in the base camp flickered, then went out completely. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Commander, Kethin's voice rose in panic. The ships are moving. They're coming in fast. Multiple vectors. They'll be here in minutes. Battle stations. Launch our fighters! Prepare all defenses. But even as Thalrix gave the orders, he knew it was futile. The humans had been watching them, waiting, studying their movements. And now, after 2 months of patience, they were done waiting. The first human ship appeared directly above their base camp. It was sleek and dark, shaped like a blade. It didn't fire weapons. Instead, it transmitted a message on all frequencies. A human voice, speaking perfect Velkari, filled the communication channels. Velkari vessels. This is Captain Yunseo of the Homeworld Reclamation Fleet. You were warned. You were told to leave. You chose to ignore those warnings. You chose to desecrate our sacred world. Now you will face the consequences. This is Commander Thalrix of the Velkari Empire. He responded, trying to keep his voice steady. We meant no disrespect. We didn't know this world was still claimed. We're willing to negotiate. Negotiate? Yunseo's laugh was cold. You found warnings in your own language. You read our messages. You opened our sealed archives. You knew exactly what you were doing. Ignorance is not innocence, Commander. More human ships appeared. They moved with impossible speed and grace, surrounding the Velkari vessels. Boarding craft launched, attaching to Velkari hulls like parasites, were being boarded. Someone shouted. Thalrix watched the security feeds in horror. Human soldiers in advanced armor cut through their airlocks as if they were paper. They moved with terrifying efficiency, taking control of ship after ship. The Velkari security forces tried to resist, but their weapons seemed to do nothing against the human armor. Within an hour, it was over. Every Velkari vessel was under human control. Not destroyed. Captured. Captain Yunseo appeared on the main display. She stood in what looked like a command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing every Velkari position around Earth. You wanted to know what humanity became? She said. We became what we had to become. We spread across 1,000 star systems. We adapted to 100 different worlds. We had no homeworld to protect us, so we learned to protect ourselves. We had no central government to lead us, so every colony became self-sufficient. We had 600 years to prepare for this exact moment. What are you going to do with us? Thalrix asked. Yunseo's expression was unreadable. That depends on what your empire does next. We've sent a message to your government. They have a choice to make. And so do you, Commander. You can warn them about us. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth is forbidden ground. Tell them that humanity has returned. The transmission ended. Thalrix slumped in his command chair, surrounded by red emergency lighting and the quiet sounds of his defeated crew. They had been so confident, so certain of their superiority. Now they understood the truth. The humans hadn't run away 600 years ago. They had scattered like seeds. And in the darkness between the stars, those seeds had grown into something powerful, something patient, something that had been waiting for someone foolish enough to disturb their homeworld. The warning had been real, and they had ignored it. The attacks came like precision surgery, quick, clean, and unstoppable. Commander Thalrix watched from his captured command center as human forces dismantled the Velkari operation piece by piece. They didn't destroy, they seized. Every mining facility, every transport ship, every orbital station, all taken intact within a matter of days. What terrified him most was how they fought. Not with rage or vengeance, but with cold, calculated efficiency. This was a military force that had trained for centuries. Every movement was perfect. Every tactic was flawless. They fought like machines, but thought like hunters. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission," Kethin said quietly. The sensor officer had aged years in just days. They all had. Captain Yun Seo appeared on the screen. She stood in the same command center as before, but now more humans were visible behind her. They wore different uniforms, suggesting different colonies or military branches. All of them looked at the camera with the same hard expression. "Commander Thalrix, I'm giving you an opportunity," Yun Seo said. "A chance to understand what you've awakened." "I'm listening," Thalrix replied. What choice did he have? "You're going to watch something. Security footage from one of your mining vessels. The Abundance, I believe you called it. Pay attention." The screen changed. It showed the interior of a Velkari cargo ship. The crew was working normally, processing materials from Earth. Then alarms blared. The crew rushed to their stations, looking confused and frightened. Something hit the ship. Not a weapon, there was no explosion. Just a soft thud against the hull. Then another. And another. "Boarding craft," Yun Seo's voice narrated over the footage. "Designed to attach and cut through ship hulls without triggering explosive decompression. We've had 600 years to perfect the design." The footage showed Velkari security forces gathering at the airlock, weapons ready. The door glowed red as something cut through it from the outside. The Velkari fired as soon as the door fell. Their weapons bounced harmlessly off the armored figures that poured through. The human soldiers moved like water, flowing around obstacles, targeting weak points with inhuman precision. In less than 30 seconds, every Velkari security officer was down. "Not dead," Thalrix noted, "stunned or restrained." "We don't kill unless we must," Yun Seo said, as if reading his thoughts. "These soldiers are trained to capture, not slaughter. But make no mistake, Commander, they can kill very efficiently when needed." The footage continued, showing human soldiers taking control of the ship room by room. The Velkari crew tried to resist. It was futile. The humans had weapons that passed through Velkari shields. They had armor that resisted Velkari energy weapons. They moved in zero gravity as if born to it. "You're wondering how we became this strong," Yun Seo said. The screen returned to her face. "Let me tell you a story about survival." She gestured, and new images appeared beside her. Colony ships arriving at distant worlds, humans building settlements on planets with crushing gravity, thin atmospheres, toxic soil. When we left Earth, we had nothing but our ships and our determination. We couldn't go to garden worlds, those were too obvious, too easy to find. So we went to the hard places, the deadly places, worlds that would kill softer species. The images showed children growing up on high-gravity worlds, their bones and muscles adapting, humans mining asteroids in the void between stars, entire colonies living in rotating habitats with no solid ground beneath them. We adapted. We evolved. Every colony faced different challenges. The children of New Sol grew strong under heavy gravity. The descendants of Tokyo Station became masters of zero-gravity combat. The colonies near neutron stars learned to manipulate magnetic fields in ways you can't imagine. More images. Human ships being built in the darkness of space. Not pretty vessels, but practical tools designed for war and survival. We had no homeworld to fall back on. No central authority to call for help. Each colony was alone, so we learned to be self-sufficient. We learned to be strong. We learned to be patient. Yunseo's eyes hardened. And we learned to be ready. Because we knew someday we would return to Earth. We knew others would come to our homeworld. We knew we would have to fight for it. Thalrix found his voice. You've been planning this for 600 years? Planning? No, Commander. We've been preparing. There's a difference. We didn't know who would come. We didn't know when. But we knew someone would find Earth eventually, and we made sure we would be ready when they did. She stepped closer to the camera. Do you understand now? You didn't just disturb a grave. You walked into a trap that's been waiting for 6 centuries. Earth was bait, a test. Anyone who ignored our warnings and desecrated our homeworld would reveal themselves as a threat. As someone who needed to be taught a lesson, what kind of lesson? Thalrix asked, though he feared the answer. The kind that makes sure it never happens again. Over the next week, Thalrix was allowed to observe as more human forces arrived. Entire fleets emerged from the darkness between stars. Ships of every size and design, each bearing the marks of different colonies. New Busan, Lunar Refuge, Mars Redoubt, Titan Free State. Names of human settlements scattered across the galaxy. Velmoth worked with his human captors, analyzing their technology with a mixture of terror and fascination. Commander, he reported one evening, I've been studying their ships. The technology is beyond us, not by a little, by generations. Their power systems are more efficient, their weapons more advanced, their computers faster, and most terrifying of all, their designs are diversified. Explain. Each human colony developed its own technology path. They didn't standardize like we do. This ship uses antimatter reactors. That one uses zero-point energy. Another uses quantum probability drives. If one technology fails, others compensate. They're not just distributed geographically, they're distributed technologically. Thalrix absorbed this. The Velkari Empire had achieved its technology level through thousands of years of steady development. But they had done it together as one unified civilization. All Velkari ships use the same basic systems. All Velkari weapons operated on the same principles. The humans, scattered and alone, had been forced to innovate independently. Every colony had solved the same problems differently. The result was a species with dozens of different technological approaches, all of them advanced, none of them predictable. They're not a civilization anymore, Velmoth said quietly. They're a distributed network. You can't defeat them by conquering their homeworld because they don't have one. You can't destroy their fleet because they have 1,000 fleets. You can't predict their tactics because each colony fights differently. Then how do we fight them? Velmoth looked at him with sad, tired eyes. We don't, Commander. We can't. Captain Yunseo called Thalrix one final time before the real fleet arrived. I want you to understand something, she said. We don't hate you. We don't even blame you, specifically. You saw an empty world and took what you thought was free for the taking. From your perspective, it was logical. But from our perspective, she continued, her voice growing cold, you desecrated our most holy place. You stripped metal from our cities. You dug up our data centers. You stole from the graves of those who died so we could live. That we cannot forgive. What happens now? Thalrix asked. Now? Now you go home, Commander. You return to your empire, and you tell them what happened here. You tell them that Earth is forbidden ground. You tell them that humanity is no longer primitive. You tell them that we have returned. She leaned forward. And if your empire is wise, you will tell them one more thing. Tell them that we're going hunting. Hunting. The collectors. The reason we fled Earth in the first place. We've been searching for them for 600 years. We've found traces, evidence, we're close now. And when we find them, we're going to make them pay for every world they've harvested, for every species they've destroyed. Yunseo's smile was cold and sharp. You wanted to know what humanity became? We became what the galaxy needed. We became the hunters of those who prey on the weak. We became the ones who remember. The ones who return? The ones who never forget. The transmission ended. 3 days later, the Velkari were released. Their ships were returned, undamaged but stripped of weapons. They were given supplies for the journey home and coordinates for a safe hyperspace route. As the Eternal Watcher prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Thalrix looked down at the blue planet one last time. He could see human ships descending to the surface. Already they were beginning to clean the cities, to restore what the Velkari had damaged. Earth was no longer abandoned. The children had come home, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Velkari Empire did not take the news well. Commander Thalric stood before the High Council, his career in ruins, his reputation destroyed. Around him, holographic displays showed the humiliation at Earth. Velkari ships captured, mining operations seized, a military force of the supposedly mighty Velkari Empire defeated by scattered refugees. You were beaten by primitives. Council leader Thexar spat the words like poison. Humans. A species we catalogued as barely sentient 800 cycles ago. They are no longer primitive, High Council, Thalric said quietly. They have evolved beyond silence. Thexar's tentacles writhed with rage. The Velkari Empire does not run from scattered colonies. We do not fear refugees who fled their own world like cowards. If these humans think they can humiliate us, they will learn the price of defying our power. Within 3 weeks, the Empire assembled its response. 200 warships, the pride of the Velkari fleet, battle cruisers that could crack planets, carriers launching fighter craft by the thousands, destroyers bristling with weapons that could turn asteroids to dust. It was the largest military force the Velkari had assembled in a generation. They would go to Earth, they would crush these upstart humans. They would reclaim what was taken and teach the galaxy what happened to those who defied the Empire. Thalric begged them not to go. He tried to explain what he had seen, how the humans fought, how they thought, how they had prepared for exactly this scenario. No one listened. He was the commander who had been defeated. His words meant nothing. The fleet departed with fanfare and confidence. They arrived at Earth 3 weeks later, expecting to find scattered human ships, perhaps a small defensive force instead. They found an armada. Fleet Commander Gallic stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Thousands of contacts. Thousands. Human ships of every size and design filled the space around Earth like a swarm of insects. They hadn't been hidden. They had simply gathered in the 3 weeks since the Velkari fleet left their homeworld. Tactical analysis, Gallic demanded. Unknown, Commander, his tactical officer replied, voice shaking. The variety of ships is beyond our database. We're detecting at least 50 different design philosophies, different weapons, different shields, different propulsion systems. We can't predict. I don't need predictions. I need a battle plan. Launch fighters. Prepare main weapons. Show these humans what it means to face the full might of the Velkari Empire. A transmission came through before the Velkari could attack. The main screen filled with the image of a human male in a military uniform. He looked older than the captain they had met before. His face carried scars and hard experience, Velkari fleet. This is Fleet Commander Taemin of the Unified Human Defense Force. Before you do something you cannot undo, listen to what I have to say, Gallic sneered. The Velkari Empire does not negotiate with. 800 years ago we fled, Taemin continued, speaking over him. Not because we were weak, but because we were wise. The collectors would have found a civilization clustered around one star. But scattered among 10,000 stars? We became impossible to eliminate. We became impossible to predict. We became inevitable. The human commander gestured and the tactical display split. On one side, the Velkari fleet. 200 ships, impressive and powerful. On the other side, the human armada. Thousands of ships, each one a different piece of a vast distributed military force. Do you understand what you're looking at? Taemin asked. This is not one fleet from one government. This is the response from 200 different human colonies. Each one sent ships when they heard Earth was threatened. Each one remembers where they came from. Each one would die to protect our homeworld. Gallic felt the first touch of doubt, but he was Velkari. They did not back down. You think numbers frighten us? Our weapons are superior. Our shields are stronger. Are they? Taemin interrupted. Let me show you something. One of the human ships broke formation. A small vessel barely larger than a fighter. It approached the Velkari fleet at impossible speed. The Velkari fired. Energy beams that could slice through asteroids. Missile salvos that could destroy a city. None of them hit. The human ship danced between the attacks as if it knew where each shot would be before it was fired. It wove through the barrage like water flowing around stones. Then it fired once, a single shot. A beam of concentrated energy that passed through the Velkari shields as if they weren't there. It struck the lead battlecruiser's engine section. Not destroying it, but disabling it. The massive ship went dark, drifting in space. The human fighter returned to formation. That was one ship, Taemin said quietly. One pilot from the new Daegu colony. She grew up on a high-gravity world and trained in simulators from the age of 5. By the time she was 20, she had logged more flight hours than your most experienced pilots will see in a lifetime. And she is not special. She is average for us. The tactical display zoomed out, showing human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Hundreds of them, thousands perhaps. Every human child learns to fly. Every settlement trains soldiers. Every colony builds ships. We don't have a homeworld to fall back on, so we made sure every single one of our settlements could defend itself. We made sure every single human could fight if necessary. Taemin's expression hardened. You are 200 ships facing an entire species that has spent 800 years preparing for this moment. You cannot win, but you can choose not to fight. Galax wanted to order the attack. His pride demanded it. The Empire's honor required it. But he looked at the tactical display again. Thousands of ships, distributed technology, pilots who had trained their entire lives for combat. What do you want? He asked, hating himself for the question. First, acknowledge that Earth is sovereign human territory, forbidden to all others without permission. Second, spread the word across the galaxy. Humanity is not prey. Not anymore. Third, Taemin paused. Help us find the collectors. The collectors are myths. Children's stories. No, Taemin said flatly. They're real. We found evidence on a dozen dead worlds. We've tracked their harvesting patterns. We know their roots, and we're going to hunt them down and end them. The question is whether the Velkari Empire wants to help destroy the monsters or be remembered as the species that protected them. Galax looked around his bridge. He saw doubt in his crew's eyes, fear. They had come expecting an easy victory. Now they faced a choice between annihilation and alliance. I need to consult with the High Council, he said. You have 1 hour. Taemin replied. After that, we assume you've made your choice. The transmission ended. The hour passed slowly. Galax spoke with the High Council. The debate was fierce. Some wanted to fight to preserve Velkari pride. Others argued for wisdom over honor. In the end, reason won. Barely. The Velkari fleet retreated. Not in panic, but in order. They left Earth's space and returned home, carrying a message that would change the galaxy. Humanity had returned. Not as scattered refugees, but as a power to be respected. On Earth, Taemin watched the Velkari fleet depart. Around him, his officers celebrated, but he remained quiet, thoughtful. Commander, one of his officers asked. We won. Shouldn't you be pleased? We didn't win, Taemin said softly. We just avoided unnecessary bloodshed. The real battle hasn't started yet. He pulled up a star map. It showed known space with markers for human colonies, Velkari territory, and dozens of other species. But at the edges, in the dark spaces between stars, other markers glowed red. Dead worlds, harvested civilizations, the calling cards of the collectors. For 800 years we ran, Taemin said. We scattered and hid and built ourselves into something strong. But we never forgot why we fled. We never forgot the threat that drove us from our home. He zoomed in on a cluster of dead worlds. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. A trail of harvested civilizations, all following a predictable route. Now we're strong enough. Now we're ready. Now we hunt. Behind him, human ships began to organize. Not for defense, but for an offensive campaign. Colony fleets from 100 worlds gathering for a mission 800 years in the making. On Earth's surface, restoration had begun. Terraforming ships descended to the cities, cleaning the ruins, planting new forests, restoring what had been lost. Humans walked the streets of Seoul again, touching the walls their ancestors had built, reading the memorial to those who had stayed behind. In a park in the center of the city, they placed a new monument. It was simple, a stone pillar with words carved in every human language. We left. We survived. We returned. We remember. Below that, a second message: this world is ours, now and forever. Let all who come here know, humanity does not run. We prepare. We adapt, we endure, and when we are pushed to the edge, we push back. The last line was signed by Dae Hyun, the scientist whose warning the Velkari had found so long ago. His words from 800 years in the past now stood as truth in the present. We leave our world, but we do not abandon it. We become the stars themselves. And when we return, we will be mighty. Commander Thalrix, watching from his homeworld across the galaxy, saw the broadcasts. He saw humans reclaiming Earth. He saw their fleets gathering for the hunt. He saw what the Velkari Empire had awakened. He had tried to warn them. No one had listened. Now the galaxy would learn the lesson he had learned too late. Humanity was not prey. They never had been.